very much for inviting me here. And it's a real privilege. I'm really quite excited because I generally speak in the secular world, but I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
And I really believe that God has put me there because I can take Christian principles into that environment and they don't even know what they're getting. But invariably someone will say to me, "Are you a Christian?" And I'll go, "Yep." And that opens the door. But it's really, really exciting because today I get to talk about Christian things, sort of. So, Margaret, I really loved your testimony. And can I just share with you that I was born and bred in Parkes in New South Wales. You would know where that is. And my grandparents were from Orange and Millthorpe.
Oh, fancy. Millthorpe is where our daughter went to school.
Well, you know what? Your daughter might have gone to school with my... No, I think... My uncles still live in Orange. So I was sitting here going, oh, I know all those places. That's really amazing. Okay. I am just going to rearrange a few things. I am not a traditional speaker.
Good.
I was really interested that Carolyn said I like to have fun, and the points that she pulled out. Who here likes to have fun?
Yes.
All right, shall we have some fun?
Yes.
All right, let me start. So, I want to start with, believe you me, you're not going to sit there quiet all afternoon. Oh, and that's the other thing. I need someone to tell me what the time is, like maybe at 3 o'clock. What time is it now? Is it 10 to? Okay, we're going to go really fast. Okay, so I understand that Len kind of blew...
Don't stress.
Oh, I'm not. I can spread this out all afternoon, or we can make it really short. It's whatever it needs to be. I understand Les blew my cover this morning and told you all that I was going to talk about a virtuous woman. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I'd like to start with Proverbs 31 verse 10 and read to you. And I've got it here, so I'm going to read it to you, and you might just want to listen, okay, rather than read it yourself. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. By the way, this is the modern version. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks bargains near and far and willingly drives all over the city to get them. She arises early and goes to the market to get fresh produce. Before it is light, she gets up, throws a load in the washing machine, forecasts the weather, and decides to put the laundry from last night either on the line or in the dryer, depending on her weather forecast. She makes nutritious, healthy lunches for her husband and children and lovingly packs them in their bags. She prepares a nutritious, hearty first meal of the day, calling her family from their beds for breakfast. She makes sure they have worship, leisurely, meaningful and uninterrupted. She sees her husband out the door, leaves the key out for the cleaner, piles the kids in the car, picks up the ones down the street for carpool and delivers them all safely to school, not breaking the speed limit once. She proceeds to work where she is diligent, organised, has lists and actually ticks them off in a timely manner. During her lunch break, she peruses the real estate pages, organises a house inspection on one that interests her, checks on the progress of renovations on the house in Timbuktu and gets in a chapter of The Power of a Praying Wife. On the way home, she stops at the gym, smiles cheerfully through her workout and maintains her beautiful size 10 figure. On arrival at home, she prepares a beautiful meal, sits her family at a beautifully presented, well-set table, listens carefully to them about their day. She checks the children's homework, puts them to bed with a bedtime story and prayer, and then spends an hour with her husband. When he goes to bed, she works on into the night, ironing clothes and preparing casseroles for the people down the road who are unemployed. She scans the junk mail, searching for clothing bargains, coupons and anything else that can save money, pays the bills and lays out everyone's clothes for the morning. She serves on 2 church committees, runs children's church and her husband sits on the church board. In her spare time, she collects for Red Cross, writes to the child they sponsor in Africa, remembers birthdays, anniversaries and special occasions, plans dinner parties and spends meaningful time with her friends. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She never gossips, never speaks out of turn or puts her foot in her mouth. She watches over her household and ensures it is run perfectly. Her children thank her regularly, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but she excels them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was young, I read Proverbs 31 and it freaked me out. Anybody else ever read Proverbs 31?
Unattainable.
Unachievable.
Yeah.
So I did some research on Proverbs 31 and I've continued to do that over the years because I don't know about you, but here's where I sit with this. I read pretty much everything in Proverbs 31. I don't want to go to the gym. I couldn't give a stuff about cooking and cleaning. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
Good, okay. I like to help the poor. That's something I'm really passionate about. So, yay, I kind of get to that one. I'm a property investor. So when I read verse 16, it says, she considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard. Well, I figured I might be able to tick that one off as well. And also it says in here in verse 13, she seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. And then in verse 24, she says she makes fine linen and sells it and delivers girdles to the merchant. And I figure, well, that must be some sort of businesswoman, so I can maybe tick that one off. How many of you have ever felt like that?
Yes.
That this is unachievable, unattainable, and it's like, my goodness, I've got enough going on in my life without thinking about this as well. Anybody with me?
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
be honest. Is there anyone here who's perfect? Me neither. So I did some research. And the first thing I did was go and look to see what a virtuous, well, the word virtuous means. And basically, in the English language now, it says having high moral standards. I thought, that's a good thing for a Christian woman. And then I went and looked at the Hebrew, and this is what I found. It has various meanings, and it's used throughout the Bible, the same word. And I can't tell you what the word is because I couldn't pronounce it. But some of the meanings of the word and the way the word is used are strength, might, efficient, have ability, wealth, an army, or a force. And it's related to the word valour. So when they say a virtuous woman, they're not saying you have to do everything. This is my interpretation, by the way, and please understand, I am not a preacher. I am not a theologian, okay? I'm just really enjoying the fact that I can use the scripture in a talk today. But I really like that word force and valour. And I looked at that and I went, okay, that I can actually aspire to, rather than all those things that demonstrate how she is. And I think Proverbs 31 is actually giving those things as, this is my interpretation again, examples of the essence of a woman, as opposed to what we actually have to do. And so that leads me into what I want to talk to you about today. And I apologise if any of you are offended by my taking Proverbs 31 and turning it into something modern, but we've got to have a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
And you did giggle a little, so that was good. But, you know, I don't know about you, but I sit at my desk each day, and I work from home because I get to travel and things like that, and with work and all the rest of it. I run a business, or actually a couple of businesses, but I get to sit at home and I've got a beautiful view, you know, straight out onto our veranda and out into nature and all the rest of it. We have a farm up on the Sunshine Coast. And I look at what's going on in the world and I actually am unsettled about it. Is anyone here unsettled about it?
Absolutely.
And I think, what on earth, I'm married, my husband's here. I don't have children, but he has 3. 2 of them are growing up with children of their own. So I'm a grandmother by default. Best kind, I reckon.
No.
Number 4 is on the way. But I look at those kids and I look at my brother's children and my sister's children. They both have a boy and a girl each who are, my eldest niece is turning 21 in October. And she and I are very close. She lives up the coast. She lived with us for a little while and she comes over every Monday. That's our day together and we do things together. So that's her day off work. And I look at these young people and especially the women and I think, what is the future for them?
Yes.
Especially women. You know, because right now I can own a business, I can drive a car, I can travel quite freely. I don't have to have my husband by my side. He doesn't stop me from being who I am. But I don't see that in my kids' future. And I say my kids because I consider them all to be part of my responsibility as an adult and as a woman. And I am quite concerned about it. And I've spent a lot of time looking at what the future holds and how do I respond to it. So I would like to share with you a couple of the conclusions that I've come to. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now guys, we need to have a little bit of fun and I don't want you to just sit there. So I'm going to use the whiteboard. So the first conclusion I've come to is this, number 1. Number 1 is that if I don't make up my mind about where I sit on an issue, I actually am abdicating and agreeing with what is going on, which may not necessarily be where I sit.
Yes.
Okay? So I have to make a decision and a stand. Now, if any of you ever start to follow me on Facebook or anything like that, you'll find out that I'm anti a lot of things and pro a lot of things because I've sat down and I've made a decision about where I stand on these things, because when I don't speak about it or I don't have a stand on it, I actually am perhaps actually allowing whatever it is, which may be actually evil or wrong or, you know, immoral or whatever. It may actually be that I, by not standing or making a decision on where I stand, am actually saying that's okay.
Yes.
And so, you know, things like abortion, same-sex marriage, Islam, women, the way we treat women, the child sex trade. I've been campaigning to end the child sex trade for years. And so I went in and I looked at all these big issues that are facing us as women, and I believe they are facing us as women, and as women we need to stand up, because I can tell you that if we don't, our children, our granddaughters, our daughters, our nieces, you know, those women coming after us are going to be very unhappy with us because we didn't, and they're going to live very different lives. And I've made my decisions on what I believe is right. I've looked at the Bible, I've looked at Scripture, I've sought counsel and all the rest of it, and I've made decisions and I'm prepared to stand for them. So my question to you is, have you made a decision on some of these tough decisions that we're having to make? Because by not making a decision or not actually saying that's not acceptable, then we are actually probably saying that what's happening is acceptable. I'm just going to give you a really quick little story. Last week, as I told you, I was speaking in Brisbane, down on the other side, on the south side, and I was talking to one of the girls who were on crew. It was quite a bigger event, obviously, than this, and somehow or other, we were talking to, you know, the girl who was in the reception it was at a motel, and I was sitting over there just being quiet before I went to actually speak. And so I was talking to this crew member and this girl, and the girl behind the desk is all for same-sex marriage, and the girl sitting next to me was, and I'm sorry if this offends you, but mate, we got to talk about these things. So here's the thing, right? So I'm talking to this girl that's from crew, and I said to them, look, I don't care where you sit. They didn't know I was a Christian. I don't have to speak in Christianese. I see a lot of Christians saying I'm a Christian and therefore the Bible says this, and I think those people don't care. You've got to come up with a much better way to present your facts. But what both these women knew is that I advocate for ending the child sex trade. And do you know that in America, and this is what I said to them, in America, the day after same-sex marriage was legalised, the pedophiles came out and said, great, now we're going to use the same tactics as the gay people and we're going to get pedophilia approved. The day after that, the Mormons and the multiple wives people came out and they said, great, because if you're going to approve same-sex marriage, there's no reason why we can't have 3 wives. And that's what they're campaigning for now. And then after that, there was, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you would have heard these things. Now, I don't know where you sit on same-sex marriage, and quite frankly, that's your decision and that's where you are. But we need to be making a stand about where we stand. And because of what I said to these people, and I said, you go and look at any history lesson, any civilization that has ever gone down this track has actually lost its power.
Yes.
And they're like, huh. So the girl behind the desk, I don't know if I made her think or not. And I said, I respect it. This is great. We had a good debate about it. But the girl next to me, guess what she's voting? She changed her vote from agreeing with same-sex marriage because she had not thought about the complications and the implications and do you understand what I'm saying? So not only did I make a decision about where I stand, I also learned how to present my case in a way that is not disrespectful as best I can and is not, confronting to these people, but actually makes them think about it.
Yes.
Right? Do you understand? And so I want to encourage you to make a decision and to stand for what you believe is right. And that means if I see somebody hurting somebody, am I going to stand by and let that happen? I tell you, I won't. I don't let that happen on my watch. It's like, that's not acceptable. I don't stand for that. I stand for helping people and supporting people. And so in this whole journey of mine about being a virtuous woman and the Proverbs 31, which probably started it years ago, this is my first point. And this is the thing I have decided. I am going to make a decision and stand for what I believe is right. Okay, number 2. The second thing I've learnt and that I have worked out is that, we have lots of things thrown at us in life. And I may sit down today because, you see, in January, I slipped over on our farm and broke my leg.
Oh dear.
And I'm really grateful because I can actually stand in front of you today.
Yes.
That's something I couldn't do because, you see, I do things well. I like to do things well. Anybody here like to do things well? I didn't just kind of break it. I broke it in 3 places, both bones. And of course, I had to go to bed for quite a few months, have surgery and all the rest of it. My leg is full of metal and plates. And I have a choice, which is my next point, about how I respond to what life throws at me. I could have sat and wallowed in my bed, and believe you me, it was really, really, really on the cards. I was like, oh man, but I had a choice. And we have a choice about how to respond to what life throws at us. Margaret mentioned she had cancer. I hear stories all the time about people who are going through rough things. And a broken leg is a pretty rough thing to go through. I had no idea that I was going to go through that when I landed in the hospital and they started saying, and I'm asking them, how long is it going to take? It's been almost 7 months. And they're saying it could take me 18 months to walk properly. I've had to learn to walk again. Now, here's the thing though, right? Am I letting it stop me? No, because I don't want it to, but I can tell you that 2 weeks ago, there was a week where the pain was a little bit more than normal and I went into a funk and I had to pull myself out of it. I had to make a what? Choice. And so we all have choices. Life is not rosy.
No.
There are bad things happening around us all the time. There are things that are not fun all the time. I can guarantee that probably everyone in this room has had a phone call about some serious illness, some death, someone being hurt, some car accident that someone's been in. It happens regularly. A week and a half ago, a friend of my brother, who is a teacher, this guy is a teacher, he went on a school camp with year 6 kids and didn't wake up in the morning. He was 53. I'm 51. Yeah. And I can tell you, I spent a lot of time reflecting about that. Like he just didn't wake up in the morning and he's 53. He's got small children and a wife and, all these school kids. And I don't know about you, but I find that disturbing, And I'll guarantee that every single one of us in this room has had news that is not good. And the only thing we can do is choose how we respond to it.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
So that's the second thing I've learned. The third thing I've learned is that there is always somebody worse off than I am. Always somebody worse off than I am. You know, when I broke my leg, I was so grateful that I lived in a country where I could go to a hospital. I was there within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I am so grateful I live in a country where they could diagnose and treat what happened to me. I'm so grateful for doctors that knew what to do. I'm so grateful for moon boots instead of casts.
Yes.
Oh man, I don't know how I could have handled a cast. It was bad enough I had it for a week before they did the surgery. I hated it. I'm so grateful for boots. I am so grateful. Do you know, I don't take anything. I'm one of those people who just I don't even take vitamins, right? I don't have Panadol, nothing. And that was a choice because I used to be quite unhealthy. And I don't have any of that stuff in my house, but I can tell you what I'm really grateful for. Painkillers. Because I would not have got through that surgery without painkillers, you know? And so I'm amazed at how those things work. I really am. But I'm grateful I live in a country that has that. And, you know, there's always somebody worse off. I was sitting there thinking, if this had happened to me in Syria or Yemen or one of those types of places, I would probably never walk again.
No.
Or if I did, I would be a cripple. And yet today, I'm walking, albeit with a limp.
Praise God.
But I'm walking, you know? So if I sit down, you'll know why. And I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm just saying there's always somebody worse off. I had no idea how bad it hurt to break a leg. You know, you say that, break a leg, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea how bad that was going to be. And so there's always somebody worse off. And I'm going to give you one more point and then we're going to do something. The fourth point I've learned is that not only are people worse off, it's that if I spend my time helping others, I actually forget what's wrong with myself. And, you know, I hear people all the time, they're, woe is me, oh, you know, I've got this and it's so bad and whatever. And I just think, please, just go and help somebody.
Yeah.
Because if you help somebody, it's just amazing, isn't it? And so that's my fourth thing, is go help somebody. Find someone. And that can look like anything. It could be, you know, maybe giving money. It could be giving time. It could be just smiling at somebody. When I was a bit younger, I lived in Port Macquarie. And I was walking down the street really early one morning. There was no one around and there was this older guy coming towards me. Now, I'm one of those people, you've probably already worked it out, I don't really have a lot of qualms, I did when I was younger but not now, about being out there. And I had decided this day that I was going to smile and say hello to everybody that went past me. So this guy, he comes along and he's an elderly man and he's looking really down in the dumps. It's early in the morning. He was dressed okay, so I don't think he was homeless or anything like that. And, you know, we walk past and I go, hello. And he kind of, hello. And then he turned around and he came back to me and he said, why did you say hello to me? And I said, well, because we walked past each other. It's a good morning. I wanted to smile and greet you. And he said to me, you will never know what that meant to me. I don't know what it meant to him, but it obviously meant something. Yeah. And I don't know what it changed for him, whether he had a better day because of it, whether something, you know, it doesn't matter. But you can do something that small, correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's stop me waffling, and now you're going to do some work. You see, each one of us, this is the other thing I've learnt. Actually, I'll give you a bonus point, shall I? What I have learnt, number 5, is that I'm unique.
Yes.
And I celebrate that. How many of you in here can cook? How many of you can sew? How many of you are great teachers? How many of you would like to be up the front speaking? A couple of you. How many of the rest of you, it just freaks you out? Yeah, okay, right. So here's the thing, right? I can write. I'm a good writer. I'm a best-selling author. I can speak. God has given me a voice and I have a responsibility to use it. But you know, I can't cook, I can't clean. I love animals, but I don't like horses. And you know, it's like I am totally unique. There is nobody else like me. There never has been, and there never will be. And you want to know something? So are you. Now, I have a friend who is totally unique. She lives in the States, and her name is Phyllis, and she's an artist. She's an abstract artist. And I was over in the States recently, and I was at her house, and she was saying, she's a giver. I want to give you something. And I said, look, I can't take it home. You know, she's like, do you want one of my paintings? And I'm like, I can't take it home. Like, you know, how am I going to get this 5-metre painting home? Because she's big and bold. And so Phyllis has her artwork put into cards. So today I'm going to give you all a card. But don't do anything with it yet, because I'm going to give you a little exercise. Actually, could I get you? Is that okay?
Totally.
Are you all right with that? There should be more than enough for everyone. Ah. See, I picked the right person to help me. Okay. So as women, I think it's important that we actually support and encourage each other. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's nice to know, isn't it, that you can ring somebody or sit with somebody or just know that there's somebody available to help you, correct?
Yes.
All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a pen and I want you to write a message of support for somebody, not somebody that you have in mind, okay? This is just a message of support and encouragement. And I want you to ask God what to write. Now, if he tells you, that's great. If he doesn't, write something anyway. Okay? So, do you all have pens? I'm hoping you do. Yes, good, excellent. So I just want you to write something encouraging and supportive that would inspire, motivate, help somebody. Thank you so much. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah. So we'll just take a few minutes, and that's all we're going to do. I want you to finish it though, so just take a few minutes. Say, God, what would you like me to write? You don't know who this person is. God, what would you like me to write? Just pop it in the envelope and just hold it with you there when you're finished. Okay, hold your envelopes up if you're finished so I can just see. So we've got a couple more. Okay, that's fine. Excellent. All right. So while you're winding that up, I'm going to continue. This morning, I went on a little jaunt in my car, down a road, through a driveway. Got my car very dusty because it was dirt road. And I pulled up and I went inside to this place. And I bought these. Can you see them? So you see, I went to the rose farm and I said to the man, tell me about roses. And so what he said to me was, and you know the story of how a flower grows. He said, you know, I tend the bushes, I plant them, I tend them, I prune them. Some of the roses are colourful, some aren't that colourful. Some of them we have to actually, you know, deal with. Some of them get sick, some of them are well. They all have thorns. And he said, I spend a lot of time with them, take a lot of care with them. And he said, sometimes, you know, we have beautiful, perfect roses, and sometimes they're not quite so perfect. And he said, sometimes I've got to sell them as seconds, but they're still roses. And you know, I want to remind you today that you are unique and that God is our rose gardener. In his eyes, he tends every single one of us. He knows when a storm comes. He knows we've got a few thorns. Anybody here not got a thorn? But he also knows that they can be pruned off. Do you know what I mean? And he knows that some of us are pretty tight, like a rose bud. And he knows that some of us are starting to bloom. And I don't have one in full bloom here, but he knows that some of us are in full bloom. and we're reaching the end of our time. So here's what we are going to do today. You know, the roses that I have here are just a small part of all the roses in the world. And they have all different colours. There's different smells. They're at different stages. Some of these roses are really not in that good shape. And I deliberately picked some of them. You can tell I am not a flower arranger, can't you? But it's not technology, so it doesn't matter what happens, it'll work. This rose here, for example, is starting to be a little, just pop in there, good job. This one here is just starting to, you know, be a little bit dull around the edges. But is it still beautiful?
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of smell.
No.
It doesn't matter, does it? You know, each one of us is a rose. We're different colours, different stages of life, but we're still a rose. It's a thing of beauty, and that's how God sees us. Now, a rose is always a rose. It has been all through time, and that's what women are. We've been through time, okay? And at this particular point in time, we're like this bunch of roses. We're a bunch of roses in this room together right now. But when I take a rose out of that bunch, does it make it any less beautiful on its own? Is it beautiful as part of the bunch? Is it beautiful as part of the rose family?
Yeah.
It is. That's who we are. Today, I really want you to remember this, because I think that we're going into some fairly turbulent times as women. And I want you to remember that you are individually beautiful, unique, spectacular, designed by God, fearfully and wonderfully made. And you have to make some decisions about where you stand. But you have a choice to how you respond to things. And there is always someone worse off. But today I want us to support and encourage each other. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to just think for a moment, and I want you to say to God, God, there's someone in this room that I just wrote that piece of paper for this beautiful card for. And then when you have worked it out, now here's the thing, right? Everyone has done this, and so everyone should receive, okay? So if you think that you're going to somebody and they've already got, please find somebody else. I want you to come and choose a rose. Take that rose with the card that you have written to a person and embrace them with it. Tell them how beautiful they are, how unique they are, how special they are. Encourage each other. So when you're ready, close your eyes. Think about who it might be. Ask God to show you who you wrote for. And then when you're ready, come up and grab a rose and go find your person. And have fun. Have a bit of fun with it. Love each other. The little girl on the back. Who does she belong to?
I think this lady with the yellow flower. I think.
Raylene.
I'm Raylene.
Oh, you're Raylene. Oh, no,
too.
no, it's fine. I've muddled you up because of the colour of your jacket. That's all right.
I love roses. What do we do?
Find your piece of paper that you wrote, the thing, grab that, and then find someone who hasn't been given it.
So we hand them the card and the rose?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Sure, you can read your note.
Because you're beautiful.
No,
I can't
it's
talk
not
to
for
you.
me, no. No. Okay, who hasn't received one? Nell and Betty. Anyone else who hasn't received? And Raylene? Okay, who hasn't got one? There should... Two? All right, so... And who else hasn't got one? Betty. Is that right, Betty? Have you got one, Pauline? Okay, somehow or other we've not quite done the right... Who's this? That's yours, that's yours. Have you got one?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, don't worry.
No, I am going to because it's important. Is there anyone who hasn't done it? So Betty and Nell haven't got... Oh, you've got yours. Pauline, you haven't got one. How did that happen? No, it's okay, that's only one. It's fine. I have that one. No, we've got two ladies who don't have... No, it's okay. Betty and Pauline. That's all right. Betty, what's your favourite colour? As in the yellow or this lemon?
Oh, thank you.
And Pauline, what's your favourite colour?
Oh, I love them all, but
Oh, do you? No? You choose. Tell me. You like the mauve? I will have something for you too a little later. Yes, come here. No problem at all. Excellent. All right. Now, here's the thing, right? I didn't know how that was going to work out. Are they less important? No, absolutely not. And that's the thing. Like, just because those roses didn't get chosen that are there, doesn't mean that you're less important. It just means that it's different. And that's what we need to celebrate. How different we each are. Well, I could talk and talk and talk, but I reckon it must be about 3:30, which is about when I was told I should finish, I think.